When people use a firearm in self-defense, they could be arrested or sued and face extensive legal costs. Firearms Legal Protection provides uncapped legal defense for any member who uses a legal weapon in defense of themselves or others, providing members with peace of mind in these difficult situations by covering all attorney fees and other benefits. Use code EOTT at firearmslegal.com for a discount on all membership plans. Protect yourself. We'll protect you.
Supposed to ride, standing at the station, ready to step inside. All you can see, something that you do, was red as the future was waiting for you. Train rolls in the station, you cannot make a move. Something inside you gives you heat, and then you know it's true. Is the fog lifting, or is it in your mind? You stand frozen as time unwinds. And moan, you can reach your hand up and stop standing alone. Let them take your hand as you lift your face. Rise and take your place.
Okay, we on?
Radio Bullseye.
It's really weird to be on the air by myself. Amanda's usually my crutch, and I'm going without it. So we'll see how bad I mess this up today.
This is Eye
So,
on Target Radio.
last week we were in
Rob and Amanda.
we were at the Tommy Gun warehouse, and while we were there, we bought a couple of pieces we've been talking about. So, silver-plated Tommy gun and a suppressed barrel for a 1022. So we're getting all the paperwork together and getting that switched over. But otherwise, it's like Christmas came early. So
exactly.
Well, and as people who are watching on OpsLens can clearly see, Amanda's not here today, and two very poor substitutes are.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's funny.
Rob Morris, go ahead, Rob. Rob, we got two Robs here. Rob Campbell, go ahead.
Well, it's very natural for Amanda to be on the radio. She just knows when to talk and what to say, and the rest of us kind of bumble along. Hopefully, we get the right words out without stepping on our own tongue. So. But that's one thing she always is, watch what you say, watch what you're doing, watch every part of it. And I don't have enough time to talk and watch what's going on. So.
Well, I'd like to introduce myself.
Yes, please.
My name's Rob Morris. Amanda's sick. She can't be replaced, but we can try to find a temporary substitute. I host the Self-Defense Gun Stories podcast, and I co-host the Polite Society podcast with Paul. I write the Slow Facts blog and also the Armed Citizen column on AmmoLand. Robert, I've got some local news for you. Can I jump into that, or do you want to talk about a silver-plated Tommy gun?
That's fine. We can talk about whatever your local news is.
Well, it's your local news. In Ohio, they've talked about permitless carry, constitutional carry. But now I read there's a bill that would eliminate the training requirement if you want to go get your permit.
So it seems like they've decided that instead of going with the constitutional carry that's going to, red flag it to all the people that are watching for that, they just change the wording and make it happen on a different level, apparently. So they've taken the training out of it, and now you can just go down and apply for a license. So it's I guess you still have a license, you just don't have the 10 hours of sitting in the chair learning something.
Well, and let's be honest about this. What are you learning other than the rote state regulations? You're not learning much because the state packs so much baloney into what the instructor wants. They want the instructor to ingrain into you that they don't have time to give you any quality firearms training.
No, all it can do is make you hungry for the truth, and you'll do some research on your own and possibly come up with the answers that you need. If you don't have any access to that training, then where do you get it from? It's like all of a sudden you got a gun and you're out on the street, but you have no idea what the rules are.
I disagree with you, Robert. I don't think you're out on the street with a gun. Let me turn the question around entirely. What would you do if there were no training requirement to carry concealed? Would you go put a gun on your hip and walk on the street if you were a new gun owner?
No, you probably wouldn't, but there's some that will. I mean, good new gun owners.
There's some that do now, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Good common sense doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to do the right thing.
Is there a training requirement for open carry?
No, there's nothing. In Ohio, we've always just had open carry with fine. The only downside of that was if you were getting in a car, there is no provision in the law for the gun to be in the car, so you have to unload it and lock it in a box and put it in the trunk and stuff. So
Well, here,
It
I was thinking that there are some political maneuvers here, and I think of them as the baby steps to make constitutional carry more and more palatable. Like, we've almost got it now. What's the big deal? First would be to get rid of the fees for concealed carry permits, get rid of the training requirements, no expiration dates, because after all, if I commit a crime, say what, Paul?
How about just getting rid of the permits?
Well, but watch, we'll get there step at a time.
Yeah.
And then the application is approved in 14 days, so the bureaucrats can't tie it up. Oh, sure. You know what? If you find a problem after 14 days, just as if I was committed some crime, they'd say, wait a minute, we noticed you're on some database. You can no longer have a permit. Come in and turn it in. Also, if you make 18-year-olds eligible to carry, all of a sudden you go, well, then what does a permit do? Might as well get rid of it.
We're getting social media comments in already. I want to get those in if I get social media in if I could. Let's see here. Armored Ghost has already got a comment in. Do you see the supply chain problems affecting the firearms market now? I haven't seen anything as a direct effect. I'm still able to go down to the gun store and get ammo, and I haven't noticed a steep drop in the availability of firearms. Have you guys?
No, but it could be we don't know what we don't know. I mean,
could be.
How much stuff is sitting out on those ships that we don't realize is sitting out there doing nothing, and we could have it in our pocket.
Exactly. Some of the high prices and reduced inventory is, I'm sure, a supply chain problem. Wish I could tell you exactly how much. I can't. We've got, 3 minutes?
A little over. Armored Ghost also, Rob Morse, to your points earlier, you're saying incentivize permits by skipping background checks. I like that.
Maybe. I noticed a news article, and this was from the NRA. I should have seen if there was an original source. There's really, the way I think of it, is self-defense for them, but not for us. Mayors of 20 American cities know that the world can be pretty dangerous. They have armed security at all times, 24/7, 365. But for ordinary citizens, these same politicians work to remove police funding. Now, the ones that lead the list: San Francisco, Baltimore, Chicago, New York, San Diego, Denver. Those are the biggest ones. They cut their police budget, and all of them are progressive Democrats. Many of them are also part of Bloomberg's illegal mayors for guns. Now, nationwide, we saw the murder rate fall a few percent year after year after year, except something changed last year. It jumped by 29%. And the leader in this most obscene lineup is Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot. She eliminated 600 jobs from the police department. She blames the Second Amendment for the city's exploding crime and drug gangs, and at the same time spent millions of dollars to ensure her own safety. The city's built what the cops call Fort Lori in her neighborhood to protect her. Wow. Now, I have a bite on against the major media. You don't see that covered day after day in the Chicago press.
No,
you do not. And the thing is, I'm seeing that ATF is actually putting on more officers. They're supposed to be adding quite a few more to be, I guess, a burr under your saddle as a law-abiding gun owner.
Two more comments before we go to break here. I want to get in, if I could, please. Charlie Chambers says, hello, Patriot Heroes of the Polite Society. Pogo Range Alert. Harvested my first buck of the 2021 season with a 7mm Remington Magnum. Very, very cool. And Armored Ghost has another comment in here. He says, do you think President Go Brandon's handlers are trying everything possible to effectively eliminate 2A, or Are they more focused on juicing people and implementing a juice passport system? Rob,
you picked the comment.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
okay,
but I'm putting it on you, dude.
Well, we have seen Biden's press releases change dramatically. His press interviews, he's now just reading from a screen right in front of him, pretty much like I am. They don't even make the pretense that he's in an Oval Office. It's a virtual background. Someone said today, if it were any other elderly individual, we'd be looking at his handlers for elder abuse.
Yeah, absolutely. I hear some music on the other side of the break. We've got a history section.
Awareness Coalition, and what do they do?
Alrighty.
Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3 and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance...
Rob, are you going to tee up Paloma at the end of your history section?
Gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
Your front door, your car, your gun. Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different, and the best way to help prevent accidents, misuse, and theft. Cable locks help keep firearms secured. Learn how to get a free firearm safety kit. Visit ProjectChildSafe.org. If you have a firearm, own it, respect it, and secure it. Brought to you by the National Shooting Sports Foundation and the Bureau of Justice Assistance.
I'm Charlie Cook from Riding Shotgun with Charlie. Conversations in the car about gun safety, freedoms, and even a few laughs. Imagine you're in the back seat listening to an intimate chat with me and my passengers as we drive all around the country. Listen, watch, and subscribe to the Riding Shotgun with Charlie YouTube channel and podcast.
Grab your friends and head to Georgia to train with the Complete Combatant. The Complete Combatant offers a unique approach to self-defense training, layering the first signs of danger, lethal versus non-lethal decisions, and even surviving the aftermath. They offer premier firearms training with a Range Master certified instructor and host the top minds in our industry. See the courses offered on thecompletecombatant.com. That's thecompletecombatant.com.
When people use a firearm in self-defense, they could be arrested or sued and face extensive legal costs. Firearms Legal Protection provides uncapped legal defense for any member who uses a legal weapon in defense of themselves or others, providing members with peace of mind in these difficult situations by covering all attorney fees and other benefits. Use code EOTT at firearmslegal.com for a discount on all membership plans. Protect yourself. We'll protect you.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough. Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl / mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
We all know rust is bad. To help keep rust from forming on your firearms, tools, and other ferrous-based items, you want to have Rust is Bad in your gun-safe toolbox and anywhere you want to be rust-free. Rust is Bad bolsters and G-strings deposit small, safe particles that coat your rust-vulnerable items. Save your valuable items with Rust is Bad. Go to www.eyeonthetargetradio.com and follow the link for more information. That's www.eyeonthetargetradio.com for Rust is Bad.
All right, we are back, and I didn't get a chance in the first segment to introduce myself. I'm Paul Lathrop. I'm the Deputy Director of New Media for the Second Amendment Foundation. Those of you who are regular viewers on OpsLens know my work already. I'm the guy behind the scenes that usually puts up the snarky comments. I'm otherwise known as the video producer. So, that's how I ended up where I'm at. Let's see here. Rob, what do we got going for the history section this week, man?
Well, I was going to talk about some bullets. We didn't, when we come out of the Civil War, we really didn't know what a bullet was supposed to look like. Fixed ammunition was brand new at that point, and the one that was winning at the time is a 22, like the 22 long rifle style bullet with the heel. Just the heel of the case is hold into the edge of the brass, and then they usually are dipped in wax or some kind of a lubricant, and it allows it to shoot the same diameter bullet as the casing all the way through. It's funny, the bullets like we normally see for handgun, and the Russians actually wanted that. They were looking for an inside lubricated bullet that they could carry the bullets in the field and not get them all dirty. And so they come up with this inside lubricated bullet. And it was funny at the beginning. Today they just put some grease around it, and when you shoot it, it spins out there and does it. At that time they overthought it, and they tried to actually put like a mini ball type cone in the back that when you pull the trigger, the explosion pushed this cone forward and squirted grease out of the sides of the bullet to actually lube the bullet. I mean, somebody had to sit there and drill 4 holes in every bullet to make sure that this all worked. You can see how that wasn't a very effective situation at that time.
So the lube groove was behind the case mouth?
Right. Early on, okay. they were just, it was on the outside, and they just rubbed it like wax or something on it. When they went to this inside lube one, then it was down inside the case to keep it from being dirty or polluted or something. And that's actually worked out well. And it was funny because the Russians, they wanted a 44, but they ended up with a 43 because of the thickness it took for the case to take up some room in there. Mm-hmm. So, but Dirty Harry wouldn't look so cool with a 43 Magnum, right? So.
Gotcha.
What's the from? I think it was from. I cannot remember the name of the movie. Mr. Mom, maybe 44, 45, whatever it takes. You know.
Bob, were sizing dies common as soon as people started casting their own lead?
Actually, when the gun manufacturers, they would sell you all the loading equipment and everything when you bought the gun, and it was a real popular thing until the black powder age was over and smokeless powder came around, and it was too easy for people to put too much gunpowder in and blow themselves up. So that's where you got that warning about don't use reloaded ammo and stuff like that. But prior to that, a lot of times it come with this fancy tool that it sized the bullets, it sized the cases, it did everything. Some of them even had a bullet mold on the end, so when you were out by the campfire, you could cast bullets with this special tool that they were. It just
gotcha.
When black powder went away and smokeless powder started getting more popular, it was so much easier to overpressure things and blow yourself up that it just took the fun out of it, and so they made them kind of stop pushing the reloading part of it.
Well, let me ask a novice reloading question. Contemporary cartridges, 9mm 45, things invented after black powder, are those cases filled fairly densely with smokeless propellants, or are, like compared to a the older black powder charges, they'd rattle around if we put modern propellants in there.
Right, there's a lot of stuff that is pretty much a full case, but depending on which powder you use, that you can get to where you're getting better fuel mileage by changing to a different powder, and you don't use quite as much of it. And so it's but yeah, a lot of 9mm loads are pretty much a full to the top, and then put the bullet in anymore. It helps with the ignition. It keeps you so you don't have a problem with it being facing down or up or anything like this. It's just much more, I don't know what you want to call it.
Consistent, reliable?
Yep, it's much more consistent because if you take the old like 45 Colts and that, and you load it, you can tilt the gun back and then shoot it. It'll shoot in one spot, and you tilt the gun down and pick it up and shoot it. It'll shoot in a completely different spot.
Gotcha.
So having to that much farther, the gunpowder has to jump, or the fire has to jump in there to get the gunpowder to light and stuff.
Okay.
So anyhow, that's about the extent of the heel type versus the inside lube. Jacketed bullets pretty much did away with all that because we don't have to worry about lubricating bullets anymore because of the metal jacket is self-lubricating. So that makes it better in the long run.
Interesting. I want to tee up our guest for the next segment, if you don't mind. She so impresses me. I want our listeners to know who they're going to meet. Well, first, we've talked about this case before, New York State Rifle and Pistol versus Bruin. The plaintiffs were denied their carry permits because the judge said they didn't satisfy New York's proper cause standard. And when it looked like their case might go to a higher court, the state issued them a carry license to carry a concealed handgun for self-defense while traveling to and from work in one case. Both plaintiffs' licenses allowed them to carry where there weren't places that weren't frequented by the public. They said, no, that's not enough. We want to go where we're going to be threatened, not where it's convenient for the state. Paloma Campana is a litigator, an attorney, a policy analyst. She has forgotten more than I know about the Second Amendment.
Offers a unique approach to self-defense training, layering the first signs of danger, lethal versus non-lethal decisions, and even surviving the aftermath. They offer premier firearms training with a range master certified.
Okay, is she calling in?
And host the top minds in our industry. See the courses offered on thecompletecombatant.com. That's thecompletecombatant.com.
When people use a firearm in self-defense, they could be arrested or sued and face extensive legal costs. Firearms Legal Protection provides uncapped legal defense for any member who uses a legal weapon in defense of themselves or others, providing members with peace of mind in these difficult situations by covering all attorney fees and other benefits. Use code EOTT at firearmslegal.com for a discount on all membership plans. Protect yourself. We'll protect you.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County.
I think I have the audio situation where we can crosstalk while we're in break solved. I don't think we're going to have our voices go out over the airwaves.
To share knowledge,
just treat it like an open mic, right?
Yes, please.
Aspects of the U.S. Constitution to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize.
You're going to do the intro. Are you going to do Paloma's bio, Paul?
I don't. Geez, you know what, Rob?
It's a yes or no question.
When I point, you go, because I don't even know. It's on one of these 48 tabs I got, but I don't know which one.
My life's simple. I'll cover it.
This is Cheryl Todd of Gun Freedom Radio, and I am proud.
All we need to know is I'm meaner than I look.
And all the 50 women.
Most attorneys
in
are.
court, she's way meaner than she looks.
Efforts to protect the Second Amendment as delegates of the DC Project. Grassroots organizations like the DC Project.
Can you guys hear the ads? I can hear them clearly. Can you guys hear the ads?
I can't hear them at all. Paul, how bad did I run over on that exit?
The promise of
you were.
Alive.
Yep.
I'm Charlie Cook from Writing Shotgun.
See, I don't hear the music.
Conversations.
See, I hear the ads in the background right now.
And even a few.
I don't know why you guys aren't. You certainly should.
Listening to an intimate chat with me and my passengers.
But anyway, when I start hearing music, guys, I'm just going to jump in and say we got to go to break.
To the Writing Shotgun with Charlie YouTube channel and podcast.
That's good.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough. Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl / mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
Man, I like that music.
Hi, this is Paul Lathrop from the Polite Society podcast. I wanted to let you know that the show you're listening to is a proud member of the Self-Defense Radio Network. You can check out all the shows on the network by going to selfdefenseradio.net or tune in for more on Self-Defense Mondays on Karma Radio, krmaradio.com.
This is Dan Perkins with your Songs and Stories for Soldiers, Veterans Tip of the Day. If you're a veteran with a disability, are you interested in a program that could give you a free home? Homes for Our Troops is a privately funded 501c3 nonprofit organization that builds and donates specially adapted custom homes nationwide for severely injured post-9/11 veterans to enable them to rebuild their lives. These homes restore some of the freedom and independence our veterans sacrificed while defending our country and enable them to focus on their family and recovery. Since its inception in 2004, nearly 90 cents of every dollar has gone directly to the program to serve veterans. HFOT builds these homes where the veterans choose to live and continues its relationship.
I need a more intimidating wall behind me.
To assist them in rebuilding their lives. For more information, go to their website, www.hfotusa.org, and see if you can qualify for the home of your dreams. This has been your Songs and Stories for Soldiers, Veterans Tip of the Day.
And we are back. Rob, why don't you introduce our guest?
That's an honor. Paloma Capana represented clients for 25 years in state and federal courtrooms, including a case you should have heard about. It revealed the unlawful link between the National Instant Background Check System that we use for firearms and the terrorist screening database. That should keep you up at night. Paloma, welcome to Eye on the Target Radio. I've seen a lot of opinions about the New York licensing case, the one that's before the Supreme Court. What I've read, though, when I see the popular press talks about it as if this was the last court case we ever need to win. I don't think so. I'm pretty sure you don't think so. But let's assume we get a favorable ruling. Would you polish your crystal ball, look a couple years into the future, and give us your guesses about what the best case and the worst case might look, even if we win?
Let's start with the worst case, because a worst case would essentially be a repeat of a case the Second Circuit had just a few years ago, Kachalski, which I think most Second Amendment followers know. It was a brutal defeat in the Second Circuit. I think largely unexpected. The Second Amendment Foundation had a great group of plaintiffs put together, including, if I may single out one of them, a transgender female, so a protected class in the LGBTQ community, known to be at risk of increased violence rates, according to the FBI's own data. year over year. And yet, our beloved Alan Gura could not persuade the judges that sit in New York City that the licensing scheme in New York was putting people at risk. So our worst case scenario is that Kuchelski gets repeated now at the United States Supreme Court level and becomes a precedent that would blanket all 50 states and potentially embolden some states and smaller municipalities to pull back on existing licensing schemes and make it more restrictive than it is today.
I would call that a loss.
Yes, yes.
Even if we win, there's a pretty broad range.
Well, and that's why in Kuchelski they did not pursue that additional level of appeal. The mood was not right. The position of the United States Supreme Court was not right, and you couldn't take that risk. So here we have NYSERPA, New York State Rifle and Pistol Association, calculating that with 3 now justices on the United States Supreme Court nominated by President Trump, perhaps the odds will go in our favor. So what might a win look like? A little bit less than I think the popular press is reporting. No, it would not be the magic bullet to suddenly make the Second Amendment as enshrined as it should be, next to free speech and freedom of assembly and freedom of the press. No, we still have some distance to go to establish this. We're still in the 5K of the marathon of establishing the Second Amendment as the right we know it to be for the rest of the country. A win in NYSERPA versus Bruen would essentially say New Yorkers, most specifically, can achieve their license without having to show extraordinary circumstances warranting an individual person achieving their permit. It's something that Letitia James, in the brief for the state of New York, is, I think, intentionally misrepresenting to the United States Supreme Court. I personally, as a New York attorney, take tremendous offense to her brief. Many times in her brief, she is literally not only misrepresenting the law, but misrepresenting how it's carried out. She, in sum and substance, calls everything outside of New York City the Wild West, and insinuates that everywhere west of New York City, which would include Albany, where she is, by the way, I would point out, right, they just hand out permits willy-nilly. Not true. Not true. Right? The law is applied, by the way, when it's a state law throughout the entire state. So, first thing there is she is also not making clear to the judges how difficult it is to appeal the denial of a license. She makes it sound like, listen, if the licensing officer denies you your permit, just take an appeal. Piece of cake. It's a CPLR, Article 78 case, which to New York attorneys makes it sort of into that category of, oh yeah, simple, just put in the petition. Okay, except that in this instance, the law on appeal is arbitrary and capricious, not de novo. So let me say that in English. Arbitrary and capricious means the appellate division in New York has to essentially look at the licensing officer, and unless they can pretty much decide that the licensing officer was completely out of his mind when he denied the permit, they're simply going to defer to the licensing officer as the individual closest to the applicant and making a sound judgment. Equally, west of the Hudson, when you make your application for your license, you're not in front of a judge, there isn't a stenographer, and so there isn't a record to appeal. There's some notes in a file folder, which means that when you try to appeal the license application, the appellate division will say, well, Ms. Campana, you cannot add anything to the record that wasn't below in front of the licensing officer, even if we say, but my client tried to submit all of these certifications of training courses taken, permits held in other states, and so forth. They'll say, but you cannot attach this to the appellate record. It's not part of the record below. So I actually ended up doing a study in the 4th Department, New York State having 4 appellate divisions. In the entire history since 1913, approximately 45 license application denials had been appealed. Total, in about 100 years.
Wow.
One had been reversed. Lawyers don't take them. I mean, you can call any attorney in Western New York and they will simply say, no, we don't appeal license denials because you can't win. So why would you waste anybody's money? That's how bad the scheme is west of the Hudson. In New York City, what Letitia James does not tell the United States Supreme Court is that it's so bad to get a license in New York City that the NYPD has been running an illegal licensing scheme for years. 2016, 2017, 2018, multiple NYPD cops were busted for expediting licenses even to persons with criminal records who should have been denied because they can't own firearms at federal law anyway. And they were paying as much as $10,000 cash per license that was getting expedited. That's how bad it is to get a license in New York City.
Paloma, if the judges have a reasonable ruling, what changes? They throw the law back at New York and say, this violates the petitioner's rights. Go fix this. Is there any timeline? Could they come back in a decade with say, oh, we finally fixed it?
Well, in Glinda, the Good Witch of the North, in the Wizard of Oz scenario, the magic wand gets waved by the United States Supreme Court, and they set the standard nationwide for the permit application process. I hope they don't send it back to the state of New York to design a new scheme.
Oh, they could actually establish it themselves?
Sure. Yes. Yes.
Would they look at other states that have so-called successful permit application schemes and say, we choose this, it's a Chinese menu,
yes.
Column A, column B. Okay.
Yes, sure. And that's part of why, in this case, you are seeing an historic number of amicus briefs being submitted by interested persons all around the country. I mean, for example, Congresswoman Claudia Tenney from New York joined with 175 other members of the United States House of Representatives to weigh in on the issue. This issue is so big, even the United States Solicitor General has motioned the court to be able to express an opinion on behalf of the federal government.
Gotcha.
So this is big. This is big. But, whether we achieve that gold ring of setting a national standard for carry permits, that is the million-dollar question, Rob.
And what I didn't know is that the Supreme Court could issue a decision that would establish that, rather than just say, no, this is a violation, here's the considerations, go back and fix it yourself.
Yes.
Thank you. I'm so glad we had you on. This is a much, or could potentially be, a much bigger case than I originally assumed.
Yes. Now, when you and I were talking offline, you had asked me, would that thus equate to 50-state reciprocity? No.
No. Not at all. Well, it's an entirely different issue, isn't it? We've got about 20 seconds, so tee up your answer, because we'll have to get the full answer when we come back. Different issue, different time, different cases, different judges. Paul?
One step at a time, sweet Jesus, is what they say in the South.
Okay.
Now we've got some music coming into my ears.
Citizens like you protect themselves every day. We talk about it every week on the Self-Defense Gun Stories podcast. Were these gun owners lucky, or did they have a plan? How should we defend the people we love? We discuss recent examples on the Self-Defense Gun Stories podcast. Put us in your pocket.
Hi, I'm Janelle Westrom, owner of Davenport Guns and Davenport Shooting Club. At Davenport Guns, we do so much more than sell firearms. We advocate for increased personal safety and security, not just for you, but your whole family and community. Go to DavenportGuns.com to see our online inventory and browse videos, articles, and things we just find entertaining. Sign up for our newsletter to learn more.
This is Cheryl Todd of Gun Freedom Radio, and I am proud to join Amanda Suffolcool and all the 50 women, one from each state, in our grassroots efforts to protect the Second Amendment as delegates of the DC Project. Grassroots organizations like the DC Project run on donations, so please consider donating to our GoFundMe/DC Project to keep the promise of freedom alive.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough? Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl/mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3, and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
Shotgun with Charlie.
I'm Charlie Cook from Riding Shotgun with Charlie. Conversations in the car about gun safety, freedoms, and even a few laughs. Imagine you're in the back seat listening to an intimate chat with me and my passengers as we drive all around the country. Listen, watch, and subscribe to the Riding Shotgun with Charlie YouTube channel and podcast.
When people use a firearm in self-defense, they could be arrested or sued and face extensive legal costs. Firearms Legal Protection provides uncapped legal defense for any member who uses a legal weapon in defense of themselves or others, providing members with peace of mind in these difficult situations by covering all attorney fees and other benefits. Use code EOTT at firearmslegal.com for a discount on all membership plans. Protect yourself. We'll protect you.
Okay, we are back, and Paloma, Rob gave me an excellent tee-up as we were going to break. Best case scenario, let's say that we get everything we want out of the opinion, and shall issue is the law of the land. And now, first of all, my boss, Alan Gottlieb, he can't retire yet, can he?
No. No, Alan, if you're listening, no. I just saw you. No. It's not an option. We still have too much to learn from Alan. He can't go anywhere. I'm not sure, Paul, that it would get
what
to
happens next?
shall issue, though, as the standard.
Okay.
Right? Because every other right, if you will, has some limitations, even free speech. So I don't know that the Supreme Court would push the envelope that far or deny individual states a touch of autonomy. You know, that's going to be a little bit the balancing act here. Oh, that's a whole other show.
No, I get that. It's just when abortion came through, they took everything away from the states. That's why I'm hoping they'll do here.
Yeah, but let's go to another misrepresentation of law that Letitia James makes in the New York brief. She has the audacity to cite the national security case Clapper, C-L-A-P-P-E-R. Now, for any of us who have been obsessed since 9/11 with a fear that domestic terrorism was going to move from its origins in the Patriot Act to what we're seeing right now in House Bill 350, which would establish the first federal crime of domestic terrorism, we have, along the way, have to contend with Clapper and whether an individual person has to show that I personally have been bugged, in the shorthand, by the NSA in order to try to shut down some of what's been going on in terms of metadata capture. Clapper is no longer the standard, and Clapper does not stand for the proposition that the government can make it impossible for an individual person to sue to achieve personal privacy, or in the case of the Second Amendment, personal protection inside and outside their own home. But here she is misrepresenting a United States Supreme Court case. So I just want to circle back one step. We're talking about, like, what are the odds of the best case scenario versus the worst case scenario. So for somebody like me, I watched the nomination hearings. You can imagine I was glued to C-SPAN, right, for every minute of all three of President Trump's nominations. And when I listen to the three judges, I'm not hearing national security experts. I'm not hearing a familiarity with the cases like Clapper that I really want to hear, because Clapper, of course, has evolved. Thank you, ACLU. And thank you, one of my cases, Robinson versus Sessions, that nixed the TSDB connection that we found out about. So Letitia James, New York Attorney General, simply has this frame of mind that every individual person has to establish their individual need, and that somehow she believes that keeps us safer by doing things like keeping people in fear and victimized and looking at standards that have turned into, in New York City, for example, it's not enough even to show one threat. You have to show repeated threats.
A history of threats.
So even if you have an order of protection, what is a woman supposed to do? Oh, he's only threatened to kill me once, Your Honor. I'll wave the piece of paper at him.
Wow.
This is how she is twisting and misrepresenting the law as a woman, to keep even women still living in fear, unable to go to the range, learn the skill of firearm, have it as a tool towards self-defense, not just inside the home. And that's really the other question that's swirling in NYSERPA versus Bruen. Does the Second Amendment extend to your porch, to your driveway, to the public road in front of your home? That's really what NYSERPA is chasing here as well, is for the words of Justice Scalia to continue to live beyond his untimely death, that the Second Amendment is not only to keep arms, but to bear arms, and to bear means beyond your front door.
Okay, so there's a ruling that we hope brings up those points, makes a decision in light of them, modifies or hands the modified law to New York State and says, this is your new system.
Yes.
What happens in the other 7 states that have a may issue permit system?
It would equally apply.
How would it apply? Meaning that law is not now California law or Hawaii law, is it?
Yes. So national standards, so for example, the ruling of Heller, the ruling of McDonald, that the Second Amendment is fundamental, and even as applied to the states, applies to all 50 states and United States territories. The ruling in New York State versus, not New York State, NYSERPA, New York State Rifle and Pistol versus Bruen, would carry the same weight as if Congress passed a law.
But the legislature in Hawaii has already said, my law that is for issuing permits that's extremely may issue. There are none that are issued, in fact. Oh, but that respects the Second Amendment. That respects Heller and McDonald. So why not? Well, but
it doesn't.
It does if you ask them, and it does if you ask the Ninth Circuit. So what has to change so that a guy in downtown Honolulu can apply for a permit?
Nothing. The United States Supreme Court overrules the Ninth Circuit. It would overrule the Second Circuit, the First, the Third, the Fourth. One of the great arguments made by the NYSERPA legal team is that there were split circuits.
Right.
That is one of the best ways to get the United States Supreme Court to select your case. So they only pick about 80 cases a year, less than 1% of all cases that start in federal court. Split circuit decisions is one of their favorite hors d'oeuvres to nibble on and bring up to review the record, and it would overrule those earlier cases.
So if I go to my local permitting agency and they deny it, and I say, yeah, but NYSERPA versus Bruin, and they say, too bad. What do I do next?
Then you call your local attorney. And I do realize there's not enough Second Amendment attorneys around the country. That is an understatement. But the more bread and butter cases that can come forward with an actual footing in statutes, in Supreme Court decisions, the more we will start to see attorneys stepping forward who will say, okay, it's going to be $3,000 or $3,500, if you will, to take a license appeal. We are then going to take it up at our appellate division here in the state court, and we will ask the state court to actually apply the ruling to your situation, and that will start to happen. So there's always that, if you will, gap, steps, and very frustrated phone calls to the lawyer when they say, but this flies in the face of Heller. Do you know how many calls I get on that, right? This law is unconstitutional. Why do I have to hire an attorney? This law is unconstitutional. Why do I have to spend any money on it? I know, but sometimes you need more than one local judge to be saying, oh yes, I've read this decision. I'm familiar. I agree with your interpretation. And so that would be the second wave. Yeah.
Are there certain venues we want to bring cases in first?
No.
Like to establish precedent to the Ninth and the Second and the Fourth?
Nah. Listen, what's going to happen if NYSERPA scores big on this one? And you know how Tom King has got his fingers and his toes crossed. Executive Director of NYSERPA. For those of you who don't know, right? Sure. There will be
We're up on the top of the hour. We gotta run. Sorry.
Application.
Paloma, we gotta run. We need to have her back, Paul. Thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting me, and everyone, pray for the right ruling.
I do not know why I don't have... I should have ads blasting in my ears. I think there may be an issue going to with the studio. Let me text Greg. Bonus time, Rob, go.
Okay. Paloma, let's assume that things aren't running right, and I get another minute with you. This is my dream come true. It's Paul's nightmare. Paloma, if we get a great ruling, all that does is hand you a new tool to use, but you have to go apply it district by district, state by state, maybe even county by county.
Possibly, but you would be surprised how many good men and women in licensing divisions, sheriff's offices, county clerk's offices want to follow the law. There will be briefings, there will be training sessions, and it will start to be applied right away. Absolutely.
Wow. Okay. And you think that would be the case even in such states with an extreme reputation like New Jersey?
I am born and raised in North Jersey. Yes,
right.
We eventually get things right in New Jersey. We do, right?
Okay.
But listen, the caveat is the opposite, though, too. I mean, I think that's what you need to understand is there are groups like Everytown. In the event of an adverse ruling, you are going to see cut and paste draft statutes pop up instantly. And we have to be ready for that too.
Yeah. I think what we need to do...
So, we've got it. There's a lot of chips on the table for this ruling.
Gotcha.
We need to go ahead and we're gonna do our part of the top of the hour break. I've got messages into the studio. We're gonna do our part of the top of the hour break and then continue as we come out like we normally would. I still don't have audio from Salem, but we'll figure out what's going on as we get further in. For everybody watching, thank you for watching. Paloma, thank you for joining us, and I will be asking you to join us on more of our media here shortly. So,
thanks, everybody.
All right, everybody, we will be right back after the top of the hour break.
When people use a firearm in self-defense, they could be arrested or sued and face extensive legal costs. Firearms Legal Protection provides uncapped legal defense for any member who uses a legal weapon in defense of themselves or others, providing members with peace of mind in these difficult situations by covering all attorney fees and other benefits. Use code EOTT at firearmslegal.com for a discount on all membership plans. Protect yourself. We'll protect you.
As time unwinds,
Okay, we are back. We're a little late off the return from network, and I don't know. I know I'm sending audio to Salem. We'll see what happens. I know we're still live on OpsLens. I know we're still live on Facebook. I know we're still live on YouTube. All we can do is run a normal show and hope that
they pick it up and run with
for the best. Yeah. I want to get in this comment from Big John 410 here. He says, in Delaware, they use the new red flag law and court protection orders to say women do not need gun rights. That's common in non-permissive states. That's not exactly something new, man.
Wow.
Rob, I'm going to have you guys handle it. I'm going to be doing stuff in the background here for a few minutes.
Well, Rob, have you had Paloma on before?
I don't have Rob's audio.
Bob's muted. Okay.
Yeah, I did. I think I did that on my end. Just a moment here. Just a moment.
I've got a comment, and that's this. I didn't understand how striking this decision could be. Does the right of self-defense become like a super right, like the right to abortion? Now remember, judges ruled that the failure of government to provide subsidized abortions everywhere in the United States was the loss of a human right, and it had to provide it. If the right of self-defense is treated the same way, then should we subsidize guns, ammunition, shooting ranges, so that poor people can exercise that right no matter where they live?
That would have to make Bloomberg's group go crazy if they found out the government had to subsidize shooting ranges and your purchase of a new firearm and any training you wanted to do. Or
do you get discount ammo with your WIC card? Does the ordinary individual on their tax return get to write off the price of just the $100 for a safe so that they can safely store their gun near their bed in their home? That's the size of this decision, because it should indicate the standards of review. Yes, this is as much a human right as free speech, as assembly. But we'll see, and Paloma helped convince me that that's the size. I didn't know that they could dictate what the new New York law might look like. I want to jump into Wisconsin, Rob, unless you're someplace you want to go instead.
Nope, I'm following you.
Okay. It's not a bill yet. It's still in the legislature. It says that law-abiding adults with a license to carry for self-defense may do so in places of worship unless the property is specifically posted to prohibit carry. Now, imagine you're a risk-averse pastor, minister, and somebody says, by the way, I'm carrying because you didn't post. Oh, well, we don't like guns here. Okay, fine. You be the guy to post the sign on the door that says, honest people can't carry here. And then if something happens here, we'll come looking to you because you didn't protect the flock. Well, it ensures that such decisions are left up at least to individual places of worship rather than the state government indicating one size fits all and all churches are a gun-free zone. To me, that's a great step forward. Rob, I don't even know what the laws are in Ohio. I do know what they are down here in Louisiana.
Well, Ohio, the church has to make its own mind up. It's not. There's nothing in the law that says that you can't carry. It's up to the individual church to put that together.
And if I walk into the church, how do I know?
Some of them will post the red sign with the "can't go here" thing. You know, the no guns allowed.
No guns allowed.
right? Gun-free zone type stuff and that. So, and then it's up to you to make the decision as to whether you're going to a new church or you're making them stand ready for that particular time when they need to cover that.
Robert, I've been so impressed with your breadth of the news. One of the things that you talked about before was how Bloomberg blames, and the mayors who sign up with him, blames violence in their cities on, oh, no, those aren't really our people or our guns. Those guns came from other places, and that's why we have violence here, but they don't have it there. And I saw this interesting play on that logic. I wanted to put it in your quiver so that you can use it when you think fit. In this case, somebody said, you know, we have reasonable rights to defend ourselves, and we need them here in Pennsylvania because we have repeat felons who are not convicted and held in jail in New Jersey who then cross the border and commit crimes in Pennsylvania. It's not the guns that leak across the border, it's the criminals. Wow.
Well, Chicago uses that same tired thing, saying that people go out of town to pick up guns in Indianapolis or Indiana somewhere or whatever, and then bring them into Chicago to cause the violence. But they pretty much know exactly where every gun comes from anymore. They've got a pretty good idea of how to track that stuff now.
Right. Speaking of, not only there was a guy with a criminal record. He attacked a deputy. The deputy's life is still in danger. This is in Tonopah, Arizona. And then the criminal broke into a home and met an armed homeowner. And the armed homeowner stopped him. I don't think the criminal was killed, but he was wounded severely enough that the police were able to apprehend him and then identified that he was the criminal who severely wounded a sheriff's deputy. That is closer to the rule than the exception. Armed individual citizens defend themselves many more times than the police, although each individual officer sees many more criminals than the average citizen. Got it. Tough job. But turns out we also have to defend ourselves, and we, not by a large percentage, but by a few percentage points, we have to kill more criminals when they won't stop after they see a gun in our home than do law enforcement. You could argue, I wonder how Bloomberg will try and twist that new statistic, but the numbers were within 1 or 2 percentage points.
If I could, I want to... Go ahead.
Yes.
I think that the homeowner doesn't have the same laws playing in his head that the police officer has. So if he's being met by a evil individual, he's going to give it everything he has and deal with the circumstances afterward, instead of knowing what he's allowed to do or what not allowed to do.
Well, but think of the my job as an armed civilian is to keep my family safe, retreat until the police get there. The police officer has to close with and apprehend a criminal. So I'm on defense. He's nearly on offense. He has a much more difficult job in that regard, and more dangerous in that regard too. On the other hand, a criminal breaks into 19 to 20 homes before the police finally catch up with them. Their closure rate is only a few percent. So we see a criminal a lot before he finally gets seen by the first law enforcement officer.
I want to, real quick, I'm going to probably end up throwing a curveball in here. I want to get in a comment from Big John 410 over on the YouTube side. He says, don't underestimate Chief Justice Roberts' ability to ... things up. He certainly did with Obamacare, but, yeah, I'm really hoping he comes back towards the center, not left where he's been.
Well, it depends on who writes the decision, right?
I think Thomas is gonna. I really do.
5
Thomas
seconds
has been
and we're
writing
out.
a lot.
Good.
Honest citizens like you protect themselves every day. We talk about it every week on the Self-Defense Gun Stories podcast. Were these gun owners lucky, or did they have a plan? How should we defend the people we love? We discuss recent examples on the Self-Defense Gun Stories podcast. Put us in your pocket.
Hi, I'm Janelle Westrom, owner of Davenport Guns and Davenport Shooting Club. At Davenport Guns, we do so much more than sell firearms. We advocate for increased personal safety and security, not just for you, but your whole family and community. Go to DavenportGuns.com to see our online inventory and browse videos, articles, and things we just find entertaining. Sign up for our newsletter to learn more.
Your front door, your car, your gun. Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different, and the best way to help prevent accidents, misuse, and theft. Cable locks help keep firearms secured. Learn how to get a free firearm safety kit. Visit ProjectChildSafe.org. If you have a firearm, own it, respect it, and secure it. Brought to you by the National Shooting Sports Foundation and the Bureau of Justice Assistance.
Hi, this is Paul Lathrop from the Polite Society podcast. I wanted to let you know that the show you're listening to is a proud member of the Self-Defense Radio Network. You can check out all the shows on the network by going to selfdefenseradio.net or tune in for more on Self-Defense Mondays on Karma Radio, KRMAradio.com.
This is Cheryl Todd of Gun Freedom Radio, and I am proud to join Amanda Sefacul and all the 50 women, one from each state, in our grassroots efforts to protect the Second Amendment as delegates of the DC Project. Grassroots organizations like the DC Project run on donations, so please consider donating to our GoFundMe/DC Project to keep the promise of freedom alive.
When people use a firearm in self-defense, they could be arrested or sued and face extensive legal costs. Firearms Legal Protection provides uncapped legal defense for any member who uses a legal weapon in defense of themselves or others, providing members with peace of mind in these difficult situations by covering all attorney fees and other benefits. Use code EOTT at firearmslegal.com for a discount on all membership plans. Protect yourself. We'll protect you.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough. Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl/mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
We all know rust is bad. To help keep rust from forming on your firearms, tools, and other ferrous-based items, you want to have Rust is Bad in your gun-safe toolbox and anywhere you want to be rust-free. Rust is Bad bolsters and G-strings deposit small, safe particles that coat your rust-vulnerable items. Save your valuable items with Rust is Bad. Go to www.eyeonthetargetradio.com and follow the link for more information. That's www.eyeonthetargetradio.com for Rust is Bad.
All right, as we come back from break, Rob, if you guys don't mind, I want to spotlight something that has happened, just wrapped up. I mean, as we went to air, it was wrapping up. The DC Project ladies all gathered down in Florida, and wow, my wife Susan made me a bachelor. She left on Thursday, and I have been living the single man life, so to speak, now at home, cooking for myself. God help us all, since Thursday, and they're all winging their way back home, and I cannot speak highly enough of the DC Project and the great work these ladies are doing.
Amen. Amen. Paul, tell us what the DC Project is and what it does.
DC Project was started by Diana Muller. I do not know how long ago. Memory
Right.
isn't what it was, but 50 women from 50 states. What it started out as is they went to go lobby in Washington, D.C., speak with representatives, speak with senators, and let them know that these anti-gun issues were hurting women, and that's quite honestly, most of the liberals are saying, "I'm all for women. I'm all for women." Well, guess what? Your anti-gun policies are hurting women, and but that's how it started.
What's amazing is so many of them are experts, wonderful firearms trainers. In some cases, retired LEO. In some cases, victims of crime, where they said, "Hey, your gun control laws sure didn't save me. I had to do it myself." Or maybe I'm just fortunate to survive in spite of your laws. So they put a face to the consequences of good and bad legislation.
Absolutely. Want to get this up here quickly, and this is self-serving. I will absolutely admit it. Charlie Chambers, good friend and constant listener of the show, says, "Your wife Susan is a force, Paul. Great person making things happen." Man, you don't have to tell me. I absolutely know that Susan is a force. She is at least 75% of the reason I am where I am today. I can't take credit for even half of the responsibility of me getting to where I got.
But that's what we need. So they are more than just what they do. They are teaching us how to be activists. Hey, local representative, there's this gun bill. I've taken enough classes, maybe 100 hours. Unless you're talking to somebody who has that level of training, and 100 hours or a couple hundred hours isn't extraordinary in self-defense. Has someone spoken to your staff about this bill? You can be a local advocate and bring the legislative staff of your representatives in your state some real expertise, things they don't know.
Absolutely. So, but I did want to give the ladies of the DC Project a shout out, and they're finishing up their training time. They had a conference where they got together and they learned a bunch of stuff, and I'm expecting big things to come out of that. In talking with Susan over the phone the past few days, she says they have learned an absolute ton. So I'm expecting good stuff to come out of this.
Robert, have you been following John Lott's recent report on concealed carry?
No, I have not. How's that for letting you down?
John, you've read his older reports. You know that Dr. Lott follows this wonderfully. Well, he just updated his numbers. We now have 6 states with above 1 million concealed carry permits in each state. Go back a decade, you didn't find that. Nothing close. So this yeah, go Rob.
This is some of the reason I believe that where Joe Biden is trying to get more gun control. I don't think it's going to happen because he's this is focused at the mom and pop who's got their concealed carry permit in their pocket, and they realize that gun they're trying to take is their gun and not the drug dealer or something.
Yep.
So it's a much more focused rage against the anti-gun bills that are coming through, I believe, than have been in the past.
Concealed carry is common. 8% of adults carry. When you take out New York and California, where it's very difficult, in some cases impossible, to get a permit, that number jumps to 10%. In some counties in Pennsylvania where the sheriff said, we're rural, if you have a problem and there's snow on the roads, it could take me hours before the snowplow and I get to you. Please take care of yourself. We're coming as fast as we can. In some of those counties, the permit rate for adults is 50%. I would expect, and 10% is a pretty good average, that's what we should expect where the price of concealed carry is very low. It's easy to get, the fees are small. That's what we would expect to see in states today that adopt constitutional carry.
I think a lot of it too is that when you're watching the news and it's all about they're defunding the police and all the riots and different things that were going on last summer, I think that has driven a lot of people to decide they're getting a gun free in their pocket.
Wow. So you think the media, we got 60 seconds, 50 seconds to talk about this. You think media sensationalism is one of the reasons so many people have gone to get their permit?
Yes, I do.
Wow. And I can't disagree. Now, I don't watch much TV, barely listen to the radio, but I do understand that there are a lot of people who are frightened, and thank goodness they're getting training. When we come back, I want to talk about what we've seen in Texas that just adopted constitutional carry. And there we have people who don't need any training. We're going to go and get it. This is anecdotal. We don't have reports like Dr. Lott has, but we do have some.
Grab your friends and head to Georgia to train with the Complete Combatant. The Complete Combatant offers a unique approach to self-defense training, layering the first signs of danger, lethal versus non-lethal decisions, and even surviving the aftermath. They offer premier firearms training with a range master certified instructor and host the top minds in our industry. See the courses offered on thecompletecombatant.com. That's thecompletecombatant.com.
When people use a firearm in self-defense, they could be arrested or sued and face extensive legal costs. Firearms Legal Protection provides uncapped legal defense for any member who uses a legal weapon in defense of themselves or others, providing members with peace of mind in these difficult situations by covering all attorney fees and other benefits. Use code EOTT at firearmslegal.com for a discount on all membership plans. Protect yourself. We'll protect you.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition and what do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3 and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? a brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough. Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl / mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
We all know rust is bad. To help keep rust from forming on your firearms, tools, and other ferrous-based items, you want to have Rust is Bad in your gun-safe toolbox and anywhere you want to be rust-free. Rust is Bad bolsters and G-strings deposit small, safe particles that coat your rust-vulnerable items. Save your valuable items with Rust is Bad. Go to www.eyeonthetargetradio.com and follow the link for more information. That's www.eyeonthetargetradio.com for Rust is Bad.
Your front door, your car, your gun. Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different, and the best way to help prevent accidents, misuse, and theft. Cable locks help keep firearms secured. Learn how to get a free firearm safety kit. Visit projectchildsafe.org. If you have a firearm, own it, respect it, and secure it. Brought to you by the National Shooting Sports Foundation and the Bureau of Justice Assistance.
Shotgun with Charlie.
I'm Charlie Cook from Riding Shotgun with Charlie. Conversations in the car about gun safety, freedoms, and even a few laughs. Imagine you're in the back seat listening to an intimate chat with me and my passengers as we drive all around the country. Listen, watch, and subscribe to the Riding Shotgun with Charlie YouTube channel and podcast.
This is Dan Perkins with your songs and stories for soldiers, Veterans Tip of the Day. If you're a veteran with a disability, are you interested in a program that could give you a free home? Homes for Our Troops is a privately funded 501c3 nonprofit organization that builds and donates specially adapted custom homes nationwide for severely injured post-9/11 veterans to enable them to rebuild their lives. These homes restore some of the freedom and independence our veterans sacrificed while defending our country and enable them to focus on their family and recovery. Since its inception in 2004, nearly 90 cents of every dollar has gone directly to the program to serve veterans. HFOT builds these homes where the veterans choose to live and continues its relationship with the veterans after the home delivery to assist them in rebuilding their lives. For more information, go to their website, www.2.hofusa.org, and see if you can qualify for the home of your dreams. This has been your Songs and Stories for Soldiers, Veterans Tip of the Day.
All right, we are back. Rob Campbell, man, you got to do last week something that has been put on my bucket list, and that's go to the Tommy Gun Warehouse and actually come back with some stuff. Oops, hang on. There we go. You got to come back with some stuff, man.
Yeah, we've been going for a couple of years now. It's a lot of fun. It's amazing the amount of guests and speakers and different things that they have going on the stage all weekend long.
I can't hear Robert.
And while we were up there, we got to meet our friends from the CNJFO. So everybody knows that New Jersey has a civil rights wasteland. Where an unconstitutional legal standard called justifiable need keeps ordinary citizens from exercising their right to bear arms. New Jersey spits in the eye of freedom, ignores the Bill of Rights, and the Heller decision. New Jersey anti-gun politics is a spreading cancer. The Coalition of New Jersey Firearms Owners, a tax-exempt not-profit, has a goal to defeat justifiable need, reverse course on all anti-freedom laws, and render the aid to the other jurisdictions by filing Supreme Court-bound litigation, filing, I guess. And then, so CNJFO is a beacon of freedom. They are enthusiastic patriots behind the Iron Curtain of New Jersey. Support the Coalition of New Jersey Firearms Owners today. Protect all our rights and return freedoms to the Garden State. To donate or learn more, you can go to www.cnjfo.com. So it was a lot of fun up there. There's a we also were playing with all the new equipment at the Tommy Gun warehouse, and that, I mean, I had never seen a gold-plated AR-15 before, so that's something new and exciting. But
back to CNJFO, they do fantastic work, and when they say behind the Iron Curtain, man, they're not kidding. When I talk of individual states and states' rights, among states that rank at the very bottom, New Jersey is right there, and CNJFO has been consistently fighting bad laws. Yeah, New Jersey's got bad laws, but they're not as bad as they could be because CNJFO has been in there fighting.
So,
Paul, do you have this Tommy gun, or it's just something you've ordered?
That would be. I don't have a Tommy gun. I haven't ordered a Tommy gun. I'm sorry,
Robert.
Amanda actually has a silver-plated tiger stripe Tommy gun with a 50-round drum on it. That's the one she wanted. I says, "You got the baby one. I thought you'd get the 100-round drum."
She's taken possession of it, or is it?
Yep. We were able to. That's what when we went up there, they said that there's kind of backed up. They didn't think that they would be having one right away, and when they checked, they had them in stock because apparently the silver-plated one people aren't buying as much as they buy the others.
Wow.
Well, I'm glad to know they're available. I'll let my wife know that it would be an appropriate Christmas present, right? Christmas is coming.
Hey, did you see that in Norway, the guy who used a bow and arrow to kill 5 people, and that? I mean, in this country, we're having a problem with ghost guns and people building their own gun at home. But here's a guy who made a longbow, circa whatever 12th century or something, and it seemed to be quite
thousands
effective.
of years ago. Right. Well, and
so
and go ahead.
I just wondered. You can see that there is no stopping evil if it really wants to. I guess hell bent on doing something.
It's not the tool. I want to remind you that we saw dozens of people cut when a murderer went into a train station in China with a large knife. It took minutes for the police to arrive. To me, when people say, "Oh, but thank goodness he didn't have a gun," I go, if you're a peaceful people, why do you fear your neighbors? If you're a peaceful people, you want to be able to defend each other. Why were all of you disarmed so that you couldn't stop him? It's a little bit like saying, I'm going to pretend that there are no crazy people in the world who want to do violence. In this case, the gentleman was an immigrant. He was Danish. It's a heartbreak, but it seems they're learning, to my way of thinking, they're learning the wrong lesson from it.
Rob Morse, what occurs to me is the more you ban firearms, the more that bad people will resort to more violent methods and more gory methods to cause harm. You ban guns, they're going to go to knives, they're going to go to bow and arrow, they're going to go to long swords. There's and they'll manufacture their own handguns or rifles, projectile devices. Just because you're banning the gun doesn't mean that the violence is going away. You're just changing the form.
Right. Oh, but that's called progress. We leave grandma defenseless. There were 3 criminals who walked into a bar in St. Paul last week. 1 woman dead, 14 others wounded. And to me, that means this was close to a medical center. That's what that tells me. These 3 convicted criminals have a combined 48 court cases. At least 2 of the 3 are prohibited felons. They have both felony convictions and domestic violence convictions. They've been arrested over and over. And fortunately, because this was so egregious, some local media said, "What the heck? It's not the guns. We know criminals break the law. Why did you let these repeat criminals out of jail? You put us at risk when they are on the streets." Yeah, yes, they did. In Texas, there was a similar situation, and the people in the bar shot back.
Absolutely. And we find time and again that mass killings don't happen when the intended victims return fire, or at least have the ability to. Going back all the way back to the Clackamas Mall attempted mass shooting.
There you go.
There was no return fire because there wasn't a clean field of fire. All the bad guy had to do was see one person with a firearm honing in on him, and the killer took his own life.
Yep. Total
people killed in that one, so it wasn't a mass shooting.
But it was a mass shooting that was prevented. Now, in this case, I think the sheriff in St. Paul was outraged. He said, "I'd arrested this guy. He had a minor traffic violation, but I found some other evidence that he was committing a crime. He should have been prosecuted, and the county attorney let him walk." So they had some of these murderers in jail within days of when they committed this crime. Wow. This is a problem we brought on ourselves because we voted in people who don't believe that the world is dangerous. Can you imagine a more dangerous situation than having a prosecutor who doesn't believe that there are some people who are dangerous? I do want to cover one thing. When we come back, we'll follow it up more. One of the things President Biden said was that the reason we see such violence in our cities is that gun store owners are turning over guns to known criminals. Rob, you've been in FFL. I never have. Of all the gun shop owners that I know, they were incensed. They said, "That's insane." And Lee Williams went to document how crazy that claim is. Interestingly enough, the ATF has been a little bit slow in answering the question. Robert, I know you bent over backwards to make sure you didn't give a firearm to a criminal.
You know, I've had run-ins with the ATF where I tried to turn something in that was questionable, and it took me forever to get results out of these guys from this thing. And it's almost like they choose to ignore instead of explore what's going on.
I want to hear more about that right after this break.
Hi, I'm Janelle Westrom, owner of Davenport Guns and Davenport Shooting Club. At Davenport Guns, we do so much more than sell firearms. We advocate for increased personal safety and security, not just for you, but your whole family and community. Go to DavenportGuns.com to see our online inventory and browse videos, articles, and things we just find entertaining. Sign up for our newsletter to learn more.
This is Cheryl Todd of Gun Freedom Radio, and I am proud to join Amanda Seppacool and all the 50 women, one from each state, in our grassroots efforts to protect the Second Amendment as delegates of the DC Project. Grassroots organizations like the DC Project run on donations, so please consider donating to our GoFundMe/DC Project to keep the promise of freedom alive.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? a brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough. Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl / mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
We all know rust is bad. To help keep rust from forming on your firearms, tools, and other ferrous-based items, you want to have Rust is Bad in your gun-safe toolbox and anywhere you want to be rust-free. Rust is Bad bolsters and G-strings deposit small, safe particles that coat your rust-vulnerable items. Save your valuable items with Rust is Bad. Go to www.eyeonthetargetradio.com and follow the link for more information. That's www.eyeonthetargetradio.com for Rust is Bad.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3, and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
Your front door, your car, your gun. Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different, and the best way to help prevent accidents, misuse, and theft. Cable locks help keep firearms secured. Learn how to get a free firearm safety kit. Visit ProjectChildSafe.org. If you have a firearm, own it, respect it, and secure it. Brought to you by the National Shooting Sports Foundation and the Bureau of Justice Assistance.
Grab your friends and head to Georgia to train with the Complete Combatant. The Complete Combatant offers a unique approach to self-defense training, layering the first signs of danger, lethal versus non-lethal decisions, and even surviving the aftermath. They offer premier firearms training with a Rangemaster certified instructor and host the top minds in our industry. See the courses offered on thecompletecombatant.com. That's thecompletecombatant.com.
Paul, are you going to bring us in? Can't hear you. Can't hear you.
Okay.
Anyways, there we can. I can hear you now.
There we go.
Okay. Anyhow, before the break, we were talking about some things that the ATF done that is kind of bizarre, and some of it is like if you do a background check and somebody is denied, they don't go any further than that. They just pretty much ignore it at that point. So here's a guy who tried to buy a gun. He filled out all the paperwork, trying to go around the channels, and yet the ATF doesn't bother to search that out any further. The other one I had was a guy had bought a gun online. He came to my shop to find out what my hours were. He made arrangements to have it shipped in on a day I was off. And then when the UPS showed up, he was sitting there, and he took the gun, signed for it, and then went home and didn't bother to bring it back to show me that he got it or anything. If it wasn't that the UPS had put a little tag in my mail saying that I had a gun, I would have never known. And so I contacted the ATF, and it took them a long time. I mean, I probably had 6 phone calls into it before they finally went to this guy's house, made him bring the gun back to me, put it in the book, do the paperwork, the background check and all that, and then out, but no penalties whatsoever. And I think that's totally wrong due to the fact that they got that background check for a reason. So,
amen to that. In this case, Lee Williams, who works for the Second Amendment Foundation, I have to cite him because I want to give him credit. He said, guys, just at the ATF, you have all this computerized information. Look back 3 years. We're not talking decades. You've been computerized that long. How many local firearms dealers have you prosecuted? And I'm not going to list every possible crime, just for willfully transferring a firearm to a prohibited person or for refusing to cooperate with trace data when you, the ATF, asked for it. Because that's what Biden said was so common. Well, it was 105 days for the ATF to say, got your email. We're looking into it. They can solve this problem in a second, but they wouldn't spend a minute to answer the reporter's questions. Dr. John Lott saw very similar, I'm going to call it indifference, stonewalling, politicization of answering Freedom of Information Acts when he asked the Department of Justice to provide data before the election. Your situation wasn't as bad, Robert. That's great.
Right. Another thing that I had, this was back years ago when Biden or Obama was doing that gun running thing on the southern border, and the ATF, for some reason, they came in and they wanted to list of every gun that I had transferred through my book in 7.62 millimeter. So they weren't interested in 308, 3006, 30 carbine, only 7.62 millimeter. And so I contacted the NRA to ask them about that because it seemed not normal. And they want to know if I was on a border state. And I'm like, no, I'm in Ohio. And that was really even more bizarre then. And wow. But yeah, there's a lot of things to this.
What you thinking?
Well, I do a lot of, I know a lot of different guns and stuff like this. And one part that's really funny is the description in your A&D book. It could be anything. It could be anything. And so back in the 40s, they would import stuff by this say Golden State Arms or something, and they give it a different name. Well, there's no way that anybody to say what for sure a Golden State Arms 1949 is, because it's not a normal, I don't know what your topic or heading for the particular gun. So sometimes it could be an Enfield, sometimes it could be a Russian rifle, sometimes it could be an 0383. You never know what it is.
And in many cases, this predates serialization of firearms, which was what, 1964? Right. 68.
68.
Oh,
right.
Okay.
But a lot of them, even when they have the serial number, and you put a name and a serial number, but nobody recognizes any of what it is, or
gotcha. That's scary that the federal government is that haphazard in doing its job. I think we're seeing, Robert, to change the subject, a similar situation play out at the state level. We've only got about 3 minutes to talk about it. In Chicago, there have been over 600 people murdered so far this year, mostly by gangs. And Mayor Lightfoot is at odds with the Fraternal Order of Police. She's blaming them for this violence that I think she induced. So when the president of the Fraternal Order of Police appeared on Fox News, she asked the city attorney to have an injunction placed on the president of the Fraternal Order of Police. He can no longer speak. That's what she asked. We'll see what judges say and how charges fly back and forth. What's fascinating is that there could be a blue flu in Chicago.
Well,
Lightfoot is about to, go ahead.
This goes back to a lot of this goes back to the defunding the police. and the mass exodus of police officers once that defunding started. If you don't have my back, why am I here?
On top of that, she's about to say, oh, you have to take a jab or we'll quit paying you. Well, that's another 250 officers who are getting ready to walk. So,
along with
wow.
Now this is Seattle, not Chicago. I was watching Fox News this morning. They're expecting 22% of the Seattle Police Department to go away later this week when their mandate hits.
22%? They're going to lose. Wow.
That's what my scrambled brain remembers from this morning.
Well, but watch. Of a police force, they're guys in the jails. They're guys who process people in court, bailiffs. There's a lot of bureaucracy behind it. And if they lose, wow, it's not, you might lose more than just 22% of the guys on the streets. Wow, this is how you destroy a civilization. Is anybody thinking this through? And do our reporters know enough to describe what they're seeing? That this is the deliberate destruction of a once great city in the Midwest. The Fraternal Order of Police president now, he's going to sensationalize this, said that half the force could wind up off the job. This is seriously dangerous. Paul, we're about to clock out. You got anything to wrap up?
I want to say to Amanda, who I know should be listening, and if not, we'll maybe catch a replay. Thank you for the opportunity. I'll be so glad next week to sit in the background and throw my jibes in off, where they just show up on the screen, and I don't have to take care of so many things at once. I'll let you handle your show, Amanda.
Robert, thank you for letting me on.
Thank you both for coming on and helping me with this, because it would have been too big of a job for me by myself. I get lost easily.
It proves the size of the job that Amanda has done, and we all look forward to having her back.
Yep.
Okay, you're clear. Who is this Realize Firearms Awareness